Hi. If you don't know how or have ever had problems cutting stickers or sticker sheets using your Silhouette, this is the video for you. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Kyle. I'm a part-time artist here on YouTube, and I recently launched my small art shop selling stickers and prints. And in the process, I ran into so many problems trying to cut my sticker sheets specifically, but also my die cut stickers. And I didn't really find too many resources addressing what I wanted to do. So I thought I'm gonna make a video on this and hopefully help others that are in a similar situation, especially for people who wanna make sticker sheets using a Silhouette. So this video is gonna be split into 3 parts. First, I'm gonna talk about how I design and create my stickers and sticker sheets in Procreate on my iPad. I'll get into specifics such as things like dimensions and how I create my borders for my stickers. After that, I'm gonna talk about how I import all those designs into Silhouette Studio and cut, including my cutting settings and some tricks that I've learned to kind of help with that process. And then finally, I'm gonna talk about just some things that I've learned along the way, some tips, and kind of a mini FAQ. So if you're interested in any of those sections separately, I'm gonna put timestamps down below. And I'm gonna try to timestamp every single issue or tip I have in that third part. So hopefully you can just skip around to the parts you need. Because really, I just want this video to be informative and hopefully helpful. Because again, when I was trying to do this, there just weren't a lot of resources or one compact place to find things. And I'm hoping that this video can be some place that you can go back to if you're having a problem that you didn't have before. Because a lot of the things that I'm gonna be talking about, I had to go to numerous different sites and have different Google searches. And some of these things took me hours to solve, and they're really simple fixes. So hopefully this will save you a lot of time and stress. So before we get into the specifics of how I actually design my stickers in Procreate, I wanted to kind of give a brief overview of the entire process in general, just because I think it'll help when we're using some of the things I'm talking about in Procreate. You'll kind of understand a little bit why I'm doing the things I'm doing. So my general flow for this, for die cut stickers, they're pretty simple. I create the sticker in Procreate, I create a border in Procreate, and then I just export that without the background and import that into Silhouette Studio, and it just cuts it really great. It's really easy to use. I think the biggest issues I've run into are how to create the background, and I'll go over kind of different ways to do that. And then also little cutting errors and jagged edges, and I'll go over how I got rid of those. For sticker sheets, it's a little more complicated because you want 2 different types of cuts. Your sticker sheet itself is like a giant die cut sticker that you want to cut out of the sticker paper. The stickers on that sticker sheet are kiss cut. You don't want them to actually be cut out of the paper. You just want to be able to peel them off. So you need 2 different cut settings for the different types of sticker, which is why this was really complicated, and there weren't a lot of tutorials on how to do this. So I'm gonna go over how I do that specifically, but I just wanted to give you a brief overview of kind of the process so that you'll understand why I'm creating the backgrounds the way I am and how I'm doing everything in Procreate and the reason for that. All right, so let's get into Procreate and I'll show you specifically how I design my stickers. Okay, so we're in Procreate now. For die cut stickers, I generally use a canvas that's 4,000 by 4,000 pixels and 600 DPI. For sticker sheets, I use a canvas that is 4,000 pixels wide by 6,000 pixels tall because my sticker sheets are 4 by 6 inches, and I use also a DPI of 600. You can obviously modify these to however you want. So just use whatever size you find appealing for the stickers that you are drawing. It really just depends on what you want. In terms of the stickers themselves, I just design, obviously, the image. I'm gonna skip that part for now and just use an image I've already created. This is one of my more popular stickers, this cute little turtle with a little mini fishbowl on his back. So I like to have a white border around my stickers. And to do this, I generally use 2 different methods. The first one's really simple. I just use a brush and outline the image. So I'll create a new layer and put it directly behind the image. I'll then choose usually the Monoline brush because it doesn't have a taper and it's just really easy to get nice smooth lines. I'll set it to 100 and just outline the image. Here I'm just doing a very rough outline. I obviously would probably do it a little more technical if I wanted to make it more clean to the figure. And then I just fill it in, and then that's the outline. This method is really easy and really fast. I think that it works well if you just want a really blobby outline. I think another thing I would suggest if you're doing this, if you're having trouble making straight or smooth lines, I would suggest potentially turning your stabilization up a little bit just so that it helps you stabilize the lines a little bit. To do this, you can either set the stabilization of the pen itself, or you can set your overall stabilization in the general preferences. And to do this, you just go to preferences and then pressure and smoothing, and then you can set your stabilization up. Mine's, I guess, set to 28.3 automatically, so I guess I always use a little bit of stabilization. I didn't realize. But you can set it up higher, and it'll be easier to make more stable movements. Just remember to turn it back down to what it was, or off, or however you want it to be. So if you want to get lines that are a little more specific to the form of your design, the second method I often use is using a Gaussian blur. And to do this, I will first duplicate the entire canvas. And the reason I do this is because I'm going to be merging all of the layers together that have artwork on them, which I've already done here. You can see this turtle design is just one layer. But obviously when I'm creating this image, I don't work with just one layer. I work with many layers. But to do this method, I found this is the easiest way to do it. So I like to duplicate the canvas just so if I mess anything up, I'm not messing up the original artwork. So in this case, I've already duplicated my canvas, and now I'm going to duplicate that layer where I merged all the different, the line work, the multiply layers, the highlights, the base colors together. I'm going to duplicate that merged layer. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to alpha lock this duplicated layer and fill it with just one color. It doesn't matter what color you use. So here you can see it's just filled with white. I then un-alpha lock it, and I use Gaussian blur at about, it's usually between 10 and 20%, depending on how thick you want your border to be. I'm going to put it at 17 just to play around with it. You can play around this however big you want it to be. I sometimes have put it between 20 and 25%, but I usually don't go much higher than that. So after I Gaussian blur that layer, I create a new layer in between the Gaussian blurred layer and the original art layer. And then I reselect that Gaussian blur layer, and I go to the selection tool and I set it to automatic. And then I click on the sticker and drag how far I want this outline to be. You can see if you drag too far, obviously you're going to get it's not going to fill anything. It's just going to fill the entire page. So you can kind of get how far you want it to be, or how far you want the outline to be, which is really nice. And then what I do is I select that new empty layer and click fill layer. And then you have this outline around your sticker. And it's a lot more form-fitting to the sticker. You'll sometimes see you'll get jagged lines, so you'll have to go and clean those up. Clean those up, I usually use the Monoline pen and just go through and kind of smooth everything out. But it just gives you a nice guide to follow along with. I think for this sticker specifically, I actually used the other method just because I didn't want these little tiny pieces sticking out from the sticker. So I think I just outlined it myself, and this is how it looks right now. So this is how it looks in real life. So you can see I just outlined it myself, I think. So those are the two techniques that I generally use to create a border on a die cut sticker. After I'm done with this, I just export it without the background. So I've already turned it off for this, obviously. I export it as a PNG because with a PNG, you can export it without the background on. And it'll export with a transparent background. After I do that, it's really simple to import into Silhouette Studio and just cut it. For sticker sheets, I use the same techniques. I either use the Monoline pen to outline them, or I use the Gaussian blur technique. For smaller areas that are really simple, like these paw prints or these hearts, I generally just use a Monoline pen and outline them. But for more complicated shapes, to get a more form fit, I often use the Gaussian blur technique. The one thing you have to keep in mind when you're using this is that if you use the Gaussian blur technique and a sticker is too close to another sticker, they could merge together and then they won't cut separately. So for example, I've already Gaussian blurred the stickers. I moved these two stickers closer together to make this example more clear, but if I select this sticker and I select the outline, when I go to fill them, these two stickers are now going to be merged together and they won't cut separately. To fix this problem, you can either obviously just move the stickers, or when you do this, depending on how big your border is, you can obviously also just erase in between a little bit. And I mean, you can do it a lot better than this, but those are just some things to keep in mind if you're using this technique. I think for sticker sheets, I often do just use the Monoline tool because the stickers on sticker sheets are a lot smaller and it's a lot easier to just outline them, but it's kind of up to your preference. The other thing that I do is I also create another border on the background of the sticker sheet. And I do this because when I cut these stickers, my Silhouette sometimes would cut like around the border and cut off a piece of the actual background with the sticker. And so I think the easiest way I found to remedy this was just to create another little white border on the background of the sticker sheet so that like the cutter will cut in between this border and the border on the background of the sticker sheet. So for example, here, I'll show you what it kind of looks like. So it's hard to see right now because both of the layers are white, but if I fill this border around the sticker itself with a different color, you can see I have like a really small rim border around that sticker in white. And that is, again, because then the cutter will cut like around this pink part, and you won't like get any of the background cut into that, like the sticker itself. So that's kind of how I fix that problem. So when I export the sticker sheet, like I said before, I export both the background and the stickers themselves. So to export the background, I just take off the sticker layer, obviously. And like I said, here's those white borders, so that, you know, the issue I just described. And then I just export this as a PNG. When I export the stickers themselves, there's a little trick I use. I color the small corners of the sticker sheet itself with a white. And this ensures that the stickers themselves will be exported in the same dimensions of this as the sticker sheet background. Because if you didn't have these ones up here, for example, when you export this, since there's nothing up here, it's going to export just this, like a box around these stickers, and that image won't be the same dimensions as the sticker sheet background, which makes it really hard to line up in Silhouette Studio. And you'll see kind of what I mean when I go to Silhouette Studio. So this is just a little trick that I found to make sure that it's easier for me to line up these stickers on top of the actual sticker sheet background itself. And this doesn't matter for me because I round my corners, so all this would be cut off anyway and it won't show. If you don't want to round your corners and you want to have a rectangle design, you could color these with the same color as the background of the sticker sheet and then just tell Silhouette Studio not to cut it, for example. So now that I've exported both the background and the stickers, I import those into Silhouette Studio. So we're going to go into Silhouette Studio now and I'll show you how I set up everything to cut. Okay, so now we're in Silhouette Studio. I'm just going to create a new file. I'm going to make sure that I have registration marks turned on so that when I print it, my cutter knows where to cut. I leave all this stuff the same. The only other thing I ever change is sometimes I change the inset to make it as small as possible so I can get as many stickers on my sheet as possible, but you don't have to do that. Okay, so now I've imported the design to Silhouette Studio. For die cut stickers, I literally just import it and then I copy it and paste it onto my new page. You could just use the page that it comes on. And then I just make it as small as I want. So you can either use this tool, that's way too small. So you can either use this tool to make it small, or you can go up here and then select the height and width manually by putting in numbers if you know how big you want your sticker to be. Generally, I think die cut stickers are between like 2 and like 4 inches in each direction. So it just depends on how big you want it to be. Most of mine are around 3 by 3 in general. I have a few that are bigger and like I have a couple that are smaller. It just depends on the design and your preferences. Once I do that, I just align them all. I just copy and paste it. And then I just kind of rotate the stickers to fit the space as best as possible. If you have the designer edition, there's like a nesting feature that will do this for you, but I use the basic edition, so I just do it myself. But anyway, so after I do all of that, and I print this onto sticker paper, I laminate my stickers, and then I send it through my cutter. For me, what I do is I go to line, and then I click on the color of the line I want to set the cut settings for. For me, what I use to cut die cut stickers, since I'm laminating them and the backing of my sticker paper is a little thicker, I use a blade depth of 5. I use 2 passes, and then I set this to 30. And then I set the speed to 4. Those are my settings. Obviously play around with it for your own sticker paper and if you're laminating or not. So it just depends on like what you're using, but those are what I use. All right, so now let's get into how I cut sticker sheets. So I've already imported both the images into my Silhouette Studio, and you can see they're really, really big because I use a 6,000 by 4,000 pixel canvas. So what I do first is for each of these different images, I keep this locked and I set the width to 4, and then it'll automatically set the height to 6 because that's the ratio of the pixels. And now I have a 4x6 sticker sheet. So I do the same thing with these stickers. So I choose 4 here. And then it goes to 5.999, which is like 6. And the reason, again, why I chose those little tiny white things in the corners is so that that ratio would be preserved. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to choose a 4:6 ratio because the imported image would not include this entire top portion if I didn't have these little tiny dots in the corners, for example. All right, so once I have the files at the right size, what I like to do is I use this drawing tool. I create a rounded rectangle, and then I set the color of that to a different color than the color of the stickers on the sticker sheet. So the lines around these are red. So I set the line around this to purple because I want to be able to tell Silhouette Studio to cut these at different settings. Because again, I want the sticker sheet to be cut as a die cut sticker, and I want the stickers on top that have like these red lines around them to be cut like less as just a kiss cut sticker, not as like deep and not as like coming out of the actual sticker paper itself. So after I create this box, I set this as well to a, I unlock it, and then I set this to a 4:6 box. So now this area is going to be what the Silhouette Cameo cuts when I send it to the cutter. So now what I do is I just copy and paste everything onto the same sheet. And then what I do is for each individual component, I center it to the page. And since they're all 4:6, they're all going to line up on top of each other nicely. And again, now my stickers are all lined up where they should be because I preserved that 4:6 ratio, again, by using those little dots in the corners, and everything is like in order. So now what's going to happen is Silhouette Studio is going to, I'm going to tell Silhouette Studio to cut this red line as a kiss cut sticker, and then cut these purple lines that you can't really see because they're behind this, cut these purple lines as a die cut sticker. So that's kind of like the rationale behind that. I also obviously turn on registration marks. And then I usually create 2 of these on one sheet. So I put them at like a 90-degree angle and create 2 of them. You can also add more stickers around like the edges if you want. So sometimes I have like little freebie stickers and I put like those around the edges just to, you know, use the space as efficiently as possible. The only thing to worry about when you do this is make sure like the lines around those freebie stickers, if they're going to be a die cut sticker, which I assume they probably will be, make sure that they're the same line color as this box. So in my case, purple, because that's like what I'm saying. That's what I'm telling Silhouette Studio to do as a die cut. And then also just being aware that it's going to take a lot longer to cut because it's got to cut all those little tiny stickers. And just an example of this, like I have like these little tiny freebie stickers, and so like I would put like all that design around the edges and it would cut that.
Okay, so before I actually get into how I cut the sticker sheets and my cut settings, I wanted to go over really quickly, if you want to get rid of those little marks in the corners, how to do that. So the first thing you do is you click on the stickers themselves, you right click and go to release compound path. That will turn all of the stickers themselves into their own little cut boxes, and you can select each one individually. So now you can just select all the little tiny marks in the corners and just delete them by selecting them and pressing delete. So it's pretty simple. This also is really nice for if you have any internal cuts that you want to get rid of. And I'll talk about this a little bit later, but sometimes I had little tiny cut marks inside the sticker sheets themselves that weren't supposed to be cut. So pretend this is one of them in the corner over here, this little heart. If you just click on it, then you delete it the same way, then you'll just get rid of it. So it's really nice if you have any like parts that are being miscut inside of it. But I'll talk about that a little later.
Okay, so now that I have like my sticker sheet ready, again, I would normally put 2 on one page, but for the sake of this, I'm just going to do it like this. So now I go into the send menu, and what I do is similar to before for the purple, in my case, the purple, which is like the outline of the sticker sheet itself. I want this again to be a die cut sticker, or I want it to be cut out of the sticker paper. So I use similar settings to before, but because I'm not laminating it and the sticker paper isn't as thick as my die cut sticker paper, I actually don't need like as high of settings. So for this, I usually just use a depth of 3, 2 passes, and then a force of, I think, 25, and a speed of 4. Again, play around with your settings for this. It's going to vary based on what you're using. And then for the stickers themselves, again, I want those to be kiss cut and not cut out completely. So for this, I only do a blade depth of 2. I do 1 pass, and I only do it at a force of 11. Oops, 11. And then a speed of 4. So those are the settings that work for me. And so then when the Silhouette cuts this, it's gonna again like cut out the sticker sheet as like an entire die cut sticker, and then all the little tiny stickers on that sticker sheet will be just kiss cut. So yeah, that's how I set everything up. So now that I've gone over that process, I'm gonna go into some of the things that I ran into specifically and how I fixed them. Okay, so one of the first things that I had to run into, and while we're in Silhouette Studio, I'll talk about this. I had to calibrate my Silhouette machine. I don't think you normally have to do this before using it. I think it's like I don't think it's necessary to do unless it's miscutting. Mine was completely miscutting, like it just was not cutting the lines at all. And I think part of it, I just tried to calibrate it and it helped. If you right click on the device right here, sometimes the menu like kind of looks like you can't see the entire thing, but if you click on this little, or you hover over that arrow, you'll see the entire menu. But you can go to calibration, and then it'll give you like a sheet to calibrate, and it'll say like what cuts looked off and things like that. So you can try doing something like that. That did help my problem actually. So after I did that, it started cutting a lot better. The other issue, if your things aren't cutting well, make sure your paper is actually sticking well to your mat, because if it's not and it comes up or it gets like a little bit loose, it can cut off, or even just like cut off by like a little tiny bit. And I've had that issue before. The other thing you can try doing that I have had to do a few times is I've had to like move the blade back and forth. Here, I'll show you how I do it. So make sure your machine is off, and then just like move this back and forth like this a few times. I think it says to do 5 or 6 times. So like that would be like 1 time is like there and back. And then if you just leave it on this end, and then when you turn it on, it'll like automatically return to this side. I don't remember exactly like what it does, but I think it fixes like the calibration of the motor or something. And that has helped too. If anything is miscutting a little bit, that has also helped. So try doing that. The other thing to remember or to keep in mind is that this should be up, and then that helps obviously keep the mat in place. You also need space to obviously do this, because the mat will shoot out the back and out the front, and like just make sure you have enough space, because if that hits things, it will obviously mess things up. So those are some of the issues I had with like cutting calibration issues. Another thing that might happen is you might start hearing a grinding noise every now and then, kind of like a very machine grinding noise. And how I fixed that was, again, I moved that head back and forth, and it just completely fixed it. I've heard also you can try like lubricating the like the track it's on, I think. But you can look that up, because I didn't do that. And yeah, I think that's like one of the recommendations that I read that Silhouette Studio had. But again, like I haven't done that, so use at your own risk type of thing. And I don't know what you would use, because I've heard WD-40 is like what they suggested, but then I've also read like that can cause later issues of like, you know, jamming things up. So I don't know. I would just do your research on that one, but that's just another thing to like at least look into. The other thing that I think helped me was updating my Silhouette Studio. I had it to like a previous edition, and I've heard people complain about certain editions of Silhouette Studio on forums. So I would say like keep it updated as much as you can, because I think like they fix things, and if bugs come in, like the newer versions hopefully address those. So I would say try updating your Silhouette Studio, which you can do in Silhouette Studio. Just there's like an update thing. You can also like set automatic updates, so it just updates on its own whenever it starts. The other thing that I will say is that I had a few issues with like the blade not being properly installed. My blade also completely like broke apart at one point, so I had to order a new one. So if your cuts are dull, like that's another thing to think about, is if your blade's kind of old, or if it's like just new blade and it's not cutting, it's probably not installed properly. So I had an issue because when I was doing it, this wasn't like locked down all the way. So I took my blade out, but when you're putting your blade in, I would just like put it in like this and be like, okay, good to go. But you actually have to like press this in like that, and it'll click, and then it's like locked in. And I didn't realize that, because I don't know, I feel like I didn't really find instructions when I was doing this or something. So that's another thing to keep in mind. If your blade's not cutting well, try that. Another issue mine has is when you are feeding in this mat, you can't just like let it hang. Even if you have like this, you can't just let it like sit on here like this, I have to like literally hold it up straight, and then when I like press the up arrow to like feed it in, so that it like feeds in straight. So the other thing that I've had to do is when I'm actually like feeding this into the machine, I have to like kind of hold it up like this or it won't feed properly. So like when I'm pressing that button there to like feed it in. I also have to do that when I'm registering it. So if you're having registration problems, one thing that I would suggest is like making sure that when it's registering, you're holding it up flat like this, or mine like won't register. So I either have to hold it up or like put like a book under it to like prop it flush with like the machine. It took me like honestly probably like 2 or 3 hours the first time I was trying to cut something to figure out why it wouldn't register, and it was because like it wasn't being held up like that. So if you're having problems with that, I would try to at least try that, and maybe it'll help. And then if it does help, you can obviously figure out a solution that's like long term instead of having to hold it literally every time. I think that's pretty much all I have for like the like tricks and different issues I've run into, and hopefully that helps you with some of the things. If you're having any other issues, feel free to comment down below and maybe I can help with them. I'm not like a Silhouette pro by any means, but I feel like I've run into enough issues with this that I have like a fix for a lot of them. I think my biggest suggestions for when it's not cutting right is make sure your sticker sheet's stuck to the mat. Maybe buy a new mat if your mat is like really like not as sticky anymore or kind of older. I would also suggest like doing this thing where you just go back and forth after you turn your machine off, because I think that has helped a lot of the time. If those things don't work, try calibration. And if the calibration's not off, I think you can contact like Silhouette and they'll help walk you through some stuff. I've heard they're like somewhat helpful, but I don't know because I've never contacted them. So I'm not entirely sure like what that's like, but I would suggest like going and looking at that. The other thing I would suggest, if like you're getting like little tiny cut marks in your stickers, for example, I don't think, oh, you can kind of see it right here. You can see this little like mark right there. That's like a little tiny cut mark, and what is happening is if your background isn't completely filled with white, like if there's a little bit of gray, it'll try to cut right there. So that's another thing if you're getting like little tiny marks in your stickers. And that happened to me with like a couple of them, and I don't really like know how I didn't fill in the background entirely, but I did it like twice, so that's not good. But you'll notice that like you can, obviously when you feel the sticker, you can feel like a little mark. So if you're getting like little tiny cuts like in your sticker or around the edges, just make sure your backgrounds are like filled in properly. So that's just another thing I'm kind of ran into. And then the sticker sheet thing with like the cutting off the border, you know, how I make a white border around on the background. That's another trick I guess I've learned. Other than that, I feel like now I've gotten this process a lot more smooth and a lot more down. So I'm hoping that like going forward when I create new stickers, I don't run into these issues as much. I think that a lot of this was like trial and error. And I think a lot of this like is hard to know that you're gonna run into if you've never cut stickers before. So hopefully if you're thinking about cutting stickers and you're just starting, hopefully these tips will help you a little bit and maybe help you not make the same mistakes I made. Because I spent a long time just Googling all of this and trying to watch YouTube videos to figure things out. But these are the things that have worked for me. Again, if you have some problems that you're running into that I didn't address, I'm sure there's a lot of people here that might have some suggestions for you. And yeah, I'd be happy to also try to figure it out. And yeah, I hope this was helpful. And if you want more videos like this, or if you're interested in like following with my art journey or opening my shop, or just my experience with art, please consider subscribing. And if you like this video, If you have any comments, I'd love to hear them. So yeah, I hope this was helpful for you. And yeah, good luck with your sticker creations. And yeah, I hope you have a great day. Bye!